So Tavarus Blackman is the 2020-2021 Kala Art Institute Fellow, the recipient of the 2019 Sustainable Arts Foundation Parent Artist Residency, and the 2018-2019 Headlands Center for the Arts Graduate Fellow. He received his MFA in Studio Art from UC Davis as the Provost Fellow and his MA in Studio Art from Sac State. He lives in Sacramento with his partner and 3 children. Welcome, Tavarus.
Thank you.
Yes. I was excited. I actually watched your IG Live today. So that got me excited to ask some of these questions. The first one I want to start is just what influences or inspires your work?
A lot of my, pretty much my family is my biggest influence, like my partner and my children. A lot of the work I make, you know, has to do with like domesticity or joy or, you know, the challenges of like being a Black father in America. That's my biggest, closest inspiration. I'm also inspired by art history and art itself. I think, you know, sitting in an American history or, you know, US history class in college compared to sitting in an art history class in college, I definitely felt more connected to art history than US history. And I think that just has to do with the fact of our, you know, our difficult past, you know, but with art, it seemed like it was something that I could connect to. It felt like part of my history. It felt like I was, you know, in there somehow, you know, even if, you know, Black artists or African-American artists aren't represented in, you know, pre-colonial or, you know, Renaissance or Baroque art, I still felt a connection to the fact that these people were making things. And as someone who makes stuff inherently, that just felt like part of, you know, what I was about as opposed to manifest destiny.
Yeah. So describe a typical or not so typical day in your studio over the last 6 months. What does that look like?
Well, I had a studio at Kala Art Institute, and they closed due to COVID-19 in March. They opened again in June, so I was without a space for a while. I had another studio in town, but I actually moved out in January. You know, art music lit space has been pretty much my studio, so to speak. You know, I'm not physically making actual work for the majority of COVID-19, basically working from home at my kitchen table on my computer, sitting for long periods of time, parsing over millions of lines of code, which is a lot different to, you know, where I'm at now at Verge in the studio space, where I can actually move around. I paint on the floor, I move it to the wall, I use power tools, I mix color. So yeah, most of COVID, I've been at home working on the computer, doing writing, creative writing, submitting tons of applications like a lot of artists during this time, applying for grant funding and relief funding. Moved into Verge in this month, and pretty much just got to work. Typically, irregardless of COVID, I spend a lot of time mixing colors. I use my own method of powdered pigment and polymer urethane binders. So I'll mix up the colors myself, and I'll build stretcher bars, stretch the canvas. Sometimes I work with ready-mades. The series I'm working on now, I'm painting directly on wrap, you know, store-bought packaged canvas, you know, like cheap canvas, you buy it for like $5 and it has polypropylene on it and a little sticker and tag and the stay fresh packets inside, and I didn't unwrap it like ceremoniously, like now I'm going to paint. I just kept the wrapping on there because it's like so stupid. Like who would do that? Do stuff like that. I like working with untraditional materials like tarp or random fabric swatches, or kind of beautiful fabric I'll get from the fabric store on Stockton Boulevard. And I basically am a hoarder. Like the work that I have in the studio now, some of these scraps I've had for like 5 years. They've just, I don't know where I don't have room to keep them anywhere. They're just like somehow in a bag somewhere in a closet in a corner. They've kind of remained and been caretaken, so they find new life and new work.
Nice. Can you tell us about your current body of work? I'm really excited about that piece you said about the, you're painting actually on the plastic. That's actually,
Oh, yeah. So like something like this one here, you won't really be able to get a good view of it, but this is synthetic paint and cell vinyl on, you see the little like art basic tag right there. So like this work is what well, I have a lot on my mind. So I have like 3 or 4, actual painting, series going on right now. This is the one I'm physically working on now. It's called Floor Mort, Dead Flower, and I'm going to exhibit it at Axis in November. So it's kind of based on art history's representation of the still life, particularly the wilted flower. I like to think of it as a metaphor for America, especially like in our current times. But for me, there's a moving past the dead, or the deadness of the flower, into a joy that can be experienced through a life beyond what should be passing away around us, like racism or sexism or homophobia. So the work is really about joy. That's why there's like all those colors and playfulness, and basically poking fun at art history by painting on the packaging of the canvas. My other series are Medieval, which is a series based on the cowl, which is something that is used in monasteries. It also has connections to spiritual groups in Spain, or executioners in Europe, or the Ku Klux Klan. The character, the antagonist, wears a checkered pattern, which originated in the Middle East. It's depicted on chess and checkerboards. It was transferred from the Middle East to China, then to Europe. The Tartans in Scotland wore the check. The Tartans are known as Klansmen. So you have this big metaphor connection about history, appropriation, and it's all being played out through the lens of the protagonist, which is a diminutive gingerbread runner. Another series I have is called Play, and they're all about children's instruments, particularly like play school xylophones. So it's all about like joy and play and like music and sound and what that makes me feel.
So there's a question from a viewer. Manuel Rios asks, what artists influence your visual language? I really like that question.
I really like Robert Colescott and Peter Saul and Elizabeth Murray. I really like the German expressionists, and I like Larry Pittman and Robert Williams. I like a lot of the Harry Hu, Chicago Imagists work, from like Gladys Nilsson to Jim Knott. I like the work of John Buck, who's a UC Davis grad and printmaker. Really, there's like so much out there. It's, you know, I think the work that I'm really drawn to as like is limited in its scope of representation. Um, I mean, I think probably the best artist right now is like Trenton Doyle Hancock, in my opinion. Um, I really I like a mix of like graphic and representation and abstraction. Um, the way I work really has to do with like, you know, activating materials through intervention. So I'm not scaling or representing. I'm basically just abstracting, you know, a surface with an image, much like Colescott would do or de Kooning might do. My only contention with the abstract expressionists is there was little commentary on the world around them at that time. However, I love how they work with material.
Yeah.
So there's contradiction.
I will say I'm glad this is recorded because you just gave a great history lesson, and I'm about to go back and watch it and take some notes. A lot of those names I've never heard of, and actually I love that because I get to go back and research. Okay, so what is your current favorite art material?
My favorite art material? My favorite art material is paint and paper. Uh, yeah, I love paper because it's so democratic. You know,
Mm.
most children. I mean, it's not utterly democratic, but most children have access to paper. Most students. I mean, any consumer will get a receipt. You know, so it's always part of us. Um, I say paint because like it's just it's wet and it drips and it's buttery and you can push it and you can pull it and you can rub it and you know you can stretch it, you can peel it, like all these things, um, and you use a brush, which is kind of like a wand, you know, in some weird way. Um, yeah.
So is your artwork including any current or future exhibitions?
Yeah, so I'm in the artist preview show that's downstairs at Verge. The piece that I showed you over here is going to be in the Root Division auction. I'm going to be in the 2021 fellow exhibition at Color Art Institute. I have some work, some published work in Cura Mag through Fordham University in New York, also in Brushfire Journal, University of Nevada, Reno. Those are both online, as well as IO Literary Journal, which is also online. That's kind of current stuff.
And where can we follow your work? Your Instagram, website, where can we follow you?
Yeah, you could follow my work on Instagram at Tavarus Blackman, or you can go to my website, tavarusblackmanart.com. I have other websites that are linked on that site. I also have a Vimeo profile, which is Tavarus Blackman, and a SoundCloud account, which is Black Audio Monster. So lots of ways to see what or hear what I'm doing.
I'm excited. I'm excited. And you said November. There's a show at Access in November, right?
Yes. So make your appointments for the current exhibition, which is Manuel Fernando Rios and Nick Shepard, and make your appointments as well for you know, all of our exhibitions. I will be showing in November, so head over to accessgallery.org and make an appointment, and we'd love to see you and for you to see the show.
And my last question, I like asking this question. How are you finding joy right now?
I'm finding joy in like the funny things that my kids say. You know, kids, all kids, you know, usually say the funniest things, and yeah, just spending time with them during the days, watching them play and fight, and spending time with my partner. That all is my biggest sense of joy.
Nice. Well, thank you. And I'm excited to work with you on Art Music Lit Space, and I'm excited to see all the things that you have coming up, and especially what you're doing for artists in Sacramento and all over the nation, actually.
Thank you. Yeah, we're elated to be working with you. So happy about that, and thank you. I feel humbled to be able to be in the position to, you know, help people connect with one another, and yeah, it just feels like, yeah, such a, you know, a difficult, challenging, but also special time right now. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, talk to you soon.